So I'm going to start with an experience I had. I had this experience like in the past month, right? It was an event. It was a small gathering of a small group. And one of the people invited to this group is very selfish, entitled, arrogant, and brings tension into every room. Just a very narcissistic person. People have been enabling this person for this person's entire lifetime, right? So the day of the event comes, and I was to be one of the attendees. Okay, so again, the day comes. And because this person was going to be there, I viewed it as something I had to endure and get through. The day comes, like I said, the event comes, and the narcissistic person then says about an hour before that they don't feel like going. Now, many, many times, this is not unusual for this person. Many times in this past, this person has gotten into a toxic dance with folks. It's almost like their ritualistic dance. They'll say at the last minute they can't go. And it was almost like they expected other people to insist, like, no, 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 you have to come. It won't be as much fun without you. Like, you gotta come. Like, we want you to come. Please come. We want you there. But really, when we did that to this person, we did it to assuage our guilt. Nobody really wanted this person there. This year was different. And when this person said they didn't want to come, I said, okay. And this person was a bit surprised. And they said, well, if I'm not going, then I can't imagine X and Y. These other people aren't going to go too, right? This person's very controlling. And I said, no, everyone else is going. It's still happening. But I know you don't want to go, so I hope you have a good day. Just doing it felt like absolute liberation for me. It's a yes or no question, folks. Are you coming or not? Yes or no? No more ritualistic dances. If you say you aren't coming, then don't come. But no, you are not shutting down the party or keeping other people from coming. Okay? So that was already a banner moment for me. But here is where the revelation was. Because like I said, I personally had been dreading this event for a while and really was planning on white knuckling it all the way through the event. So everyone went to the event except the narcissistic person, right? And the event happens. And guess what? It was absolutely wonderful. Here's what is interesting. It's not like everyone at this event was a sweetheart, by the way. It wasn't that at all. There were still some antagonistic people in the mix. But the one who didn't come was the most problematic of all, and had a lot of sort of vulnerable, narcissistic, victim-y vibes, kind of a dark cloud all the time, that meant that everyone was always putting energy into trying to cheer them up and walk on eggshells and make them comfortable. And that one person not showing up changed everything. It actually turned into a very peaceful experience. My body felt different. I wasn't hypervigilant. All throughout the room, people relaxed, and there was honestly a sense of serenity in the room. So that begs the question, could the presence of one narcissistic person change a larger group that profoundly? And the answer to that is yes. 1,000,000 years ago, when I was in graduate school, I had to do group training exercises where we learned, it was an intensive experience where we learned how our psychology can impact the composition, the feel of any group that we're in. This is a whole other level when it comes to narcissism. That exercise didn't talk about it. I learned so much there, but this is a whole different thing. I have worked with so many survivors who recalled in childhood the ecstasy that would come when the narcissistic parent would have to travel for work or work late or not be around. I have heard stories of people saying the household went from tense to calm in a moment. And at the time, because they were kids, their incapacity to fully articulate the grief-stricken recognition that it was this one person, who typically happened to be a parent, that was in essence ruining everything. People who have said that family weddings were categorically different if just that one narcissistic person didn't show up. Reunions, birthday parties, friend groups that traveled so much better together if that one narcissistic friend didn't come. I have worked with student groups in my many years that I was a professor, in which the group largely was great, and the presence of one toxic student wrecked the entire dynamic. It was very similar in classrooms too. It took one toxic student, oftentimes, to poison the entire classroom. We often think in terms of equivalences when we think about people, right? Yeah, what's one more person? Just toss an extra plate on the table, pull up one more seat. There's always enough food. It's not that big a deal. Actually, it is a big deal. Group dynamics and how they are impacted by narcissism is very real. There is an asymmetry that narcissism brings into any relational system, whether there's just two of you or a big group of you. That event that I just shared with you that happened in the last month, that event in my life led me to think of the many times in my life that just one narcissistic person ruined something. I remember a birthday lunch with a friend who insisted on bringing her narcissistic partner. Birthday lunch, ruined. I remember the committee meetings that were running fine, and then there's one narcissistic person on that committee. They show up, and the work goes to hell, and everyone felt silenced. There was this one dude I was on a committee with, and he was literally a walking, nuclear dump site. He was so toxic, and I sensed it, and I refused to sit next to him. I'd actually get up and move my seat. But I do have to say, when I took that strong a stance, and I had to endure being labeled as being the difficult one, until a year or two later he did something really bad, and people saw that I wasn't the one out of line. But it was actually a couple of years of me living with the designation of me being the difficult, challenging one for not wanting to work with this guy. So no, you are not crazy or difficult or hostile. It really is as simple as that one narcissistic person showing up that makes everything a mess. Because by and large, social groups, whether there are families, friends, workplaces, they do operate according to, I guess we call them rules. Listening, taking turns, empathy, respect. So when that one narcissistic person shows up and makes it all about them, and doesn't give a damn about the other people in the group, well, that means that everything gets turned upside down. And our trauma-bonded patterns, such as always having to make sure that they're okay, holding back on what we say, not sharing our needs or ideas, being anxious about whether everything's okay, means that when the narcissistic person enters the group that we're in, not only does their behavior change the group, our behavior also reflexively changes in most cases. We can't change them. You know that by now. But we can be aware of what they will do to the groups we are in. On that day when I was in that group, that event I shared with you, when everything was so calm and lovely because the narcissistic person didn't show up, the only way I can describe the reactions within me, it was like a sweet and salty combination. There was a sweetness of enjoying the calm and actually enjoying myself. But there was also the saltiness of the grief, the anger at the damage this person has done, of having to still navigate a relationship with this person, and the number of events in my life that this person had ruined. But knowing about narcissism matters. Even me, who does this for a living and has been doing it for a long time, I learned my no when it came to this event. And no more rituals about, oh, come on, why not? You came all this way. We'd love to have you. That's a lie. I did not want them there. So when they said no, I said, okay. I saw the expression on their face, almost like, but wait, you aren't going to insist? No, I'm not. You say no, no means no. So if we can't change them, we can feel our feelings. We can be aware that they do change the group. And above all, we can become conscious of the trauma-bonded patterns, our desire to fix and appease and do and avoid the conflict and even the grief and the guilt. If they want to sit in the corner and be sullen and victimized, let them. And all you can do is visualize them as a mismatched piece of furniture that you ignore and throw the coats on. Be aware of your allies in a social group and connect with them. The only way we can address these disruptions is to stop catering to the narcissistic people in our midst. Our tendency, which is really a futile tendency, to want to make them comfortable, makes us uncomfortable. And in the long run, that doesn't work. So yes, one rotten apple can spoil a barrel, and one narcissistic person can spoil a group, a family gathering, an event. I'm sure you've witnessed it and it's real. Don't just write it off as you not being a team player. Recognize the reality. Touch base with yourself. And if the narcissistic person does show up, find a safe corner. And when it does turn out that they don't show up, enjoy the moments when you have a narcissistic free gathering or team. Because let me tell you, and I'm telling this from my own experience, when I was in it, it almost felt like weightlessness. It felt so good. It just felt like I was floating like a cloud. And I was like, you're telling me there's people that have these interactions regularly? I envied them, and for a minute, I got to envy me, but it wasn't all easy. The grief was something I felt. And unfortunately, that is the thorny, difficult territory of navigating narcissistic relationships. Thanks again.